Another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Patrice, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the April 16th issue of the East Aurora Advertiser on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Water main break in Elma results in boil water advisory for multiple days by Sean Cunningham, a staff reporter. A major water main break in Elma on the morning of Tuesday, April 7th, resulted in a town-wide water service disruption and a boil water advisory that lasted through the morning of Saturday, April 11th. Residents in the towns of Aurora and Orchard Park, who are provided water service through the Elma water main, were also included in the advisory. The break occurred in the basement of the Water Department building on Seneca Street. The exact cause of the break is still under investigation at this time. At one point, water was steadily pouring out from one of the open garage bay doors. It was the cleanest environment you could have wished for, Supervisor Wayne Clark said. Clark said that other breaks have occurred roadside and caused mud and debris to get in the system, but that did not occur last week. The Springbrook Fire Department and a contractor assisted in pumping out the water to allow the break itself to be fixed. The Seneca Street water tower was drained and the other two water towers were drained through usage during the event, but according to Clark, at no point was the town completely out of water. The system just lacked pressure. Clark said the break caused water to spray through the grating on the first floor, resulting in several electrical components to get wet. Breakers and parts that help with the water system's automation had to be removed and dried out. The backup generator also failed as it was tied to the compromised electric panels. A backup generator was brought in. Crews worked to repair the break throughout Tuesday, and it was announced early Wednesday morning that the break had been repaired. A second small break occurred on Finnegan Drive on Thursday, April 8th. Clark said secondary breaks are not uncommon after a major one occurs. More than 2 million gallons of water needed to be returned into storage tanks and distribution lines across town. As water was restored, residents saw temporary disruptions, including air in the water lines, cloudy or discolored water, and pressure fluctuations. Water Department crews opened hydrants throughout the community to assist in restoring water flow and removing air from the system. A boil water advisory was put into effect when the break was announced. Residents were told to bring all water used for drinking, cooking, brushing teeth, washing food, preparing infant formula, and making ice to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute before its use. Clark said that a boil water advisory is triggered after a certain amount of water was lost from the system and that 2 tests needed to take place within 48 hours of system restoration. The boil water advisory remained in effect until water samples could be collected from affected areas, analyzed, and determined to be negative for bacteria, indicating the water was not contaminated during the loss of pressure in the distribution system. 3 bottled water distribution events were held at the Elma and Jameson Road volunteer fire companies. The Town of Aurora Highway Department provided bottled and potable water to affected Town of Aurora residents, and the Department of Public Works made water available to people with livestock who were affected. The Elma Town Hall remained open its normal hours through the event. At the Iroquois Central School District, students were off on spring break for the week when the water main took place. According to Superintendent Douglas Schofield, staff that came in last Tuesday over recess were allowed to go home early. The following day, only essential personnel reported. Staff returned to work on Thursday and Friday, and the district provided access to drinking water. To prepare for Monday and the students, maintenance is flushing the entire water system and replacing all filters in the district that are supplied by Elma for water, Schofield said in an email. Schofield added that the school buildings within the district never lost water pressure and the restrooms were always operational. Tree trimming project begins at Hamlin Park by Sean Cunningham, a staff reporter. For the past week, crews from the Village of East Aurora Department of Public Works, DPW, and Bradley Tree and Landscaping Incorporated have been working on a major tree trimming and pruning operation in Hamlin Park. This includes tree removal, structural pruning, and eventually some restorative practices that will allow for the continued health of trees throughout the park. Village DPW General Foreman Jeff Stoll and Village Arborist Jared Weber provided some updates on the project last Wednesday. I can see how big of a difference it has made already, Stoll said, taking in the full view of the park. In all, 160 trees will see some variation of pruning and care. Merle Robbins, an International Society of Arboriculture Board certified master arborist, performed an evaluation of all the trees in the park last year. The evaluation included the tree's species, diameter, and identified the part of the tree that was of concern. The evaluation also identified the target area, which included the area's rate of occupancy and location in proximity to where people may gather. The trees were assessed at low, medium, and high levels of risk, and a mitigation plan was recommended. Weber said that some of the trees identified as high risk only needed one branch to be removed to significantly reduce the risk. Others had broken detached branches, also known as hangers, stuck in the tree that needed removal. Some tree canopies will be thinned out to reduce the tree's overall weight and help preserve its longevity. The whole idea is to save as many trees as possible, Weber said. The last time a major tree pruning project was undertaken was in 2003. Weber worked on the project as an 18-year-old Bradley Tree employee. Most of the major tree removal took place last week. Bradley Tree crews are now focused on pruning. The DPW will grind and mulch stumps from trees that were removed. It will also be responsible for cleanup and removal of the downed limbs. Once the major pruning is done, Bradley Tree crews will move on to structural pruning, which will include the removal of some codominant stems on smaller trees. Codominant stems are two or more main vertical stems of a similar diameter growing from a single point. As the stems continue to grow, the two stems push apart from one another, leaving a cavity where water can collect and stagnate, allowing for rot and decay. Weber said that he would be working with members of the DPW to teach them the proper way to structurally prune. Approximately 20 trees have been identified for aeration. Aeration breaks up compacted soil around a tree's root zone. In high traffic areas of the park, soil compacts preventing roots from taking in nutrients. Weber said that this portion of the project would likely take place in May when the ground has dried out. The trees will then be mulched. Stoll said he plans to mulch around as many trees in the park as he can. This will help provide extra nutrients to trees and protect them from mechanical damage from lawnmowers and weed whackers. A subcommittee has been formed that will consist of Stoll, Weber, Village Tree Board Chair Jesse Griffiths, Mayor Luke Wojcicki, and local tree activist Nancy Smith. The subcommittee will focus on tree plotting in the park going forward. Weber says he hopes this project sets the tone for how other municipalities in the area view tree maintenance. According to Weber, Western New York has been behind in tree preservation compared to other regions of the state. This project and future planning mimics what a lot of other places in the state are doing. Village Board delays budget approval by Sean Cunningham, a staff reporter. Approval of the 2026-27 Village of East Aurora budget was delayed at the Monday, April 6th meeting. Trustees Ryan Camp and Jeff Raby were not present for the meeting. There is no need to pass the budget at this meeting, Mayor Luke Wojcicki said. I think we would not lose anything by taking the extra time to go through. 4 new board members, including the mayor, were elected to the board in March. The budget process, which began in December, saw one public work session that occurred in February. Wojcicki said that the unofficial subcommittee of Camp and Raby would be going through the budget lines with department heads to better understand them. We want to make sure we get it right and we understand all the implications, Wojcinski said. Presently, the village is projecting a 1.9% increase in the budget from last year for a total of over $10 million. Kristen Cameron said that any board members with questions regarding the February work session were welcome to contact her. The capital plan, water budget, and water rates for the 2026-27 term were also tabled. In other news, the board held a discussion on whether or not to carry on with a previously scheduled work session on the comprehensive plan. Last month, the Planning Commission asked the board to consider whether the village should be prioritizing industrial and manufacturing development or senior housing when considering proposals. I do not consider it appropriate to look at a certain part of the comprehensive plan, Wojcinski said. Wojcinski said that he would like to consider a full review of the plan. He said that he would like for the village to apply for funding from Erie County to help with this process. If not, then we will look for other ways to do it, Wojcinski said. No action was taken on rescheduling the meeting. In the meantime, all applications before the Planning Commission should be considered using the village's existing code. The village approved a 6-month moratorium on development of self-storage facilities. Police Chief Patrick Welch was approved to attend the International Association of the Chiefs of Police conference in October at a cost of $500 plus travel. A temporary use permit for Hamlin Park was approved for I-TAC, it takes a community, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, June 13th. This will be for a drug and alcohol-free youth event that will coincide with the Heart of Music Festival. A public hearing to consider the village's annual MS-4 report on Monday, May 4th. The village board will meet again at 7 p.m. on Monday, April 20th at the Aurora Municipal Center on Oakwood Avenue. Aurora Players production earns top honors. The Aurora Players production of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, which closed with a sold-out weekend on March 29th, has been recognized with 6 awards from the Theater Association of New York State, also known as TANYS, or TANYS. The production was directed by Parkdale Elementary School music teacher Benjamin Davis, who received an Excellence Award for direction. Additional Excellence Awards were given to Nancy Sheehan Johnson for costume design and Randy West for scenic design, both at East Aurora. Kevin Kajawa of Springville for lighting and sound design, and the full cast for an exceptional ensemble performance. The stage manager and crew were also recognized for the seamless execution of scene changes. Tanny's adjudicator, top prize tickets sold at Tops and Depew. The New York Lottery recently announced one top prize winning ticket was sold for the April 8th Take 5 midday drawing. The ticket was sold at Tops Markets located at 6363 Transit Road. The prize-winning ticket is worth $18,339. Take 5 numbers are drawn from a field of 1 through 39. The drawing is televised twice daily at 2:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. A lottery draw game prize of any amount may be claimed up to 1 year from the date of the drawing. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the East Aurora Advertiser on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And now some articles from the Aurora Police Report. Amazon driver bitten by dog in Aurora. A 26-year-old male from Buffalo reported to be the victim of an animal bite at 4:30 p.m. on Monday, April 6th. According to the report, the victim was delivering a package to a Jewett Holmwood residence. While he was approaching the front porch, 2 dogs came out from the garage along with the homeowner. The victim stated that the 2 dogs surrounded him and he sustained injuries to his right leg due to dog bites and scratches. The 51-year-old female owner of the dog stated she was going outside to move sticks at the end of the driveway and her 2 Aussie Labradoodles followed her out. As she opened her garage door, she observed the delivery driver right outside on the front porch. The dog owner stated in the report that the dogs ran over to him and she tried to gain control of the two animals. West Falls Fire Department personnel and the Aurora dog control officer were called to the scene. The dog owner stated that her dogs are up to date on their vaccinations and she provided documentation. An Amazon supervisor was notified of the incident by the patient. The report says the victim will follow up on injuries at the hospital. Grand larceny. A 60-year-old male who owns a business on Main Street reported fraudulent transactions that he discovered in his business's online checking account. The incident occurred on Thursday, March 19th. According to the report, the complainant checked his account and found a charge for $1, followed shortly by another charge from the same account for $1,000. The complainant did not recognize the charging account and had not authorized any of the above charges. The complainant contacted his bank's fraud department and the charges were put on hold. The funds were also temporarily refunded pending the outcome of the bank's fraud investigation. As part of the investigation, the complainant's bank sent him a letter requesting that he obtain a police report documenting the circumstances. The complainant advised that once he received a copy of the report, he would be forwarding it to his bank in order for it to finalize an investigation and fully refund the fraudulent charges. The complainant provided bank statements confirming the $1,000 charge, but they did not show the initial $1 charge. Property surrendered. A 37-year-old female from Buffalo surrendered a cardboard box of ammunition at 10 a.m. Sunday, April 5th. According to the report, the complainant stated that she and her 46-year-old ex-boyfriend recently ended their relationship. Before separating, the couple shared a residence in the village. Upon moving out, the complainant found a cardboard box containing 580 live .22 caliber rounds in the original containers. The complainant knew the ammunition belonged to the ex-boyfriend and that he had left it behind when he moved out. The complainant called the ex-boyfriend to ask about it, and he told her that he did not want it, requesting that she dispose of it. The complainant brought the ammunition to the station. The ex-boyfriend was contacted and confirmed that he no longer wanted it and requested that it be destroyed. Criminal mischief. A report of a 14-year-old female throwing objects in a house was made at 2 p.m. Monday, April 6th. According to the report, the subject was in her bedroom crying. Her 37-year-old father and a 43-year-old female identified as the victim were standing in the living room. The father is the victim's boyfriend. The victim stated she had been living with the family on and off for the past 2 months. Earlier in the day, the family had been celebrating Easter at the victim's grandmother's house. The group was returning home from the gathering when the victim received a text message from a family member who had been with the subject stating they should search the subject's bag for a vape. The victim stated the family member stated they observed the subject vaping at the gathering. When the group returned home, the subject was confronted and she stated she did not have a vape. The victim observed something bulky in the subject's pocket that was discovered to be a THC vape. Once the vape was taken from the subject, the report said that she became very angry and started to throw things around the bedroom. The victim stated she told the subject if she did not calm down, she was going to call the police. The subject stated she did not care and threw a floor lamp at the wall, breaking it. The subject has had previous behavioral issues, according to the victim. The victim stated she did not want to press charges against the subject, but would like advice as to how to handle the subject's behavior. Resources were provided. The subject stated she was allowed to break anything she wanted in her room because it was in her room. The report says the subject had also stated that it was not a big deal that she smokes marijuana because a lot of kids her age do. The subject was advised of marijuana use laws and that she is not allowed to destroy property that does not belong to her. Moving on. Holding center staff respond to a fire. Erie County Sheriff John C. Garcia commends Erie County Holding Center and Buffalo Fire Department and personnel for the response to a fire that broke out overnight at the facility. At approximately 12:50 a.m. Saturday, April 11th, the fire started in the facility's electrical room, which is located on the ground floor. Jail Management Division staff utilized portable fire extinguishers to battle the blaze until fire department personnel arrived at the scene. The scene was cleared by firefighters at approximately 1:50 a.m. About 10 minutes after the fire started, 4 incarcerated individuals were relocated to a different area of the facility as a precaution. They have since been returned to their assigned housing unit. There were no injuries to staff or incarcerated individuals. Preliminary information suggests that the fire started as a result of a mechanical malfunction, potentially a faulty coolant hose during the test of a generator. While we still need to find out exactly what went wrong, this incident should serve as a warning that we must address the Erie County Sheriff's Office Jail Management Division's physical infrastructure, Garcia said. Without proper investment, we are risking the safety of our staff and incarcerated population. We will continue to work hand in hand with Erie County Buildings and Grounds to focus on what happened and study the issue. Don't Let This Spring's Beauty Get Away by Hans Kunz, columnist. April is here in full swing, and there is much action among the birds, trees, and flowers taking place right now. It's a wonderful time of year as nature seems to erupt from its sleep. The birds are singing up a storm, and that's only part of the story as the late April and May migration is about to take place right before our eyes. Are we prepared to watch for some of the more unusual birds along with some of the regular favorites arriving? Did you know that the rose-breasted grosbeaks will start appearing around the last few days of April? And did you know that if you have a feeder dedicated to only pure sunflower seeds, that your chances of a grosbeak coming all summer is excellent? Grosbeak means big beak, and that beak is perfect for cracking open sunflower seeds. Often in spring, when I'm working in the garden on my hands and knees near our feeding station, I will suddenly hear the sound of cracking sunflower seeds. I look up, and sure enough, it's a beautiful rose-breasted grosbeak, only a few feet from me. They are generally quite tame. They have a wonderful, clear, warbling, whistling song. The females look very much different, but are also very pretty. Did you know that many birds are already nesting in April, such as cardinals, bluebirds, doves, killdeer, house finches, phoebes, and several others? Eagles and great horned owls have been nesting since late winter. Bluebirds like to nest in man-made nest boxes in open spaces. And speaking of bluebirds, a quick reminder is that we are hosting the New York State Bluebird Society, nysbs.org, annual Bluebird Conference on Saturday, April 25th in Warsaw. Go to the website for much more information or give me a call, text. There's no charge to attend, and we have excellent speakers. Maybe I will see you there. Did you know that the Baltimore and Orchard Orioles will be coming back soon as well? Generally, in the last couple of days of April, a few show up, but they seem to fall out of the sky around the first few days of May. They will be looking forward to your grape jelly and maybe even suet, oranges, and other goodies. However, grape jelly is their favorite. The Orchard is much less common than the Baltimore. They are smaller, much darker, and often show up a little before the Baltimores. That grape jelly will attract several other birds as well, including woodpeckers, finches, catbirds, mockingbirds, and others. Placing short pieces of string about 6 to 8 inches long on the railings, etc., near your jelly feeder will let them know that they can find some prime nesting material when they start building their nests in mid-May. Goldfinches are molting into their bright yellow plumage right now. The females will retain their olive color as they need to be camouflaged when they are nesting. However, they will not be nesting until later in July. They will spend the next 2 or 3 months finding food at your Niger and sunflower feeders and will eat flower seeds in your gardens and in the weedy fields. This morning on my walk over the farm, I noticed 3 bird species for the first time this year. They are pine siskin, Savannah sparrow, and eastern meadowlark. Siskins are coming through, moving north from their southern winter range. They are closely related to goldfinches, and chances are that you will see a few at your feeders over the next few weeks, especially liking Niger seed. Savannah sparrow and meadowlark like the open grassy fields and meadows. Early May brings the bobolinks returning from southern South America. Warbler migration is one of the key highlights of spring migration and birding. A few species are appearing in April, such as the pine, palm, and yellow-rumped warblers. There will be 25 more species of warblers coming through in May. About half of them keep moving north, and the other half actually nest around here in their preferred habitats. They really make birding super fun in May. It's crazy. If you give birding a try in May, you'll be pleasantly surprised as there are so many. Right now, you can still catch some of the massive waterfowl migration and a good amount of shore and marsh birds arriving. You just have to get out there. So much beauty is just waiting for us to see it if we just make a little effort. The next few weeks are just spectacular. This is a busy time of year with yard work and fix-it jobs, so you need to discipline yourself to spend some of that precious time to see the many birds that don't come to the feeders, and that is by far most of them. Yes, spring is a new beginning. It's a new beginning for you to make up your mind to enjoy God's masterpiece of nature and beauty. You only get so many springs to intensely enjoy, so don't let this one go to waste. The author, Hans Kunze, is a lifelong avid birder and a nature enthusiast. He has been writing a column for several newspapers on birds and nature every 2 weeks for over 30 years. He and his wife Leslie live on a farm in Wyoming, New York, where they also operate a small retail greenhouse and bird feed business and lead birding and garden walks for several groups and individuals. He can be reached by writing to Hans Kunze at 63, and that's spelled Kunze, at 6340 LaGrange Road, Wyoming, New York, 14591, or call or text 585-813-2676, or email Leslie, spelled Leslie, Kunze, Kunze, at AOL.com. Sassy celebrates Pi Day. Sassy, which I had to look up, means, if you don't already know, stands for Suburban Adult Services Incorporated. Anyway, they hosted their third annual Pi Our Leaders event, an interactive fundraising tradition where members of Sassy leadership took pies to the face on Friday, March 13th. Staff members voted on who got pied. Over $4,600 was raised, and all proceeds benefited Sassy's Sunshine Fund, which provides support, encouragement, and emergency assistance to Sassy employees throughout the year. The event took place at Sassy's East Aurora Day Hab on King Street. Each year, the event promotes staff engagement, boosts morale, and raises funds to help members of the Sassy community in times of need. And there's a pretty funny picture of several people with pie on their faces. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the East Aurora Advertiser on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. WFCA creates new opportunities to support local veterans. The Westfall Center for the Arts, WFCA, is creating new opportunities to support local military veterans and first responders through community programs and benefit events. The organization invites the public to get involved by attending upcoming concerts, including a performance by the National American rock band, The Resilient, and the local band, Flashback, as well as supporting ongoing fundraising efforts. Central to this mission is providing free music lessons for veterans and first responders. The center provides instruction in ukulele, acoustic guitar, and harmonica to help participants find wellness and empowerment through music. Additionally, the upcoming concert on April 17th supports the Hometown Heroes Banner Project, which honors local service members. Originally aiming to display 50 banners, the community response was overwhelming, resulting in 120 banners now displayed. To fund these vital programs, the center is hosting several benefit events. On April 17th, the veteran music students will open a show featuring the band Flashback alongside guest artists Tim Franzak, Bill Kita, Ken Parker, and Bob James. This event is held in partnership with Buffalo Blues for Vets, an organization recognized by both the VA and U.S. Congress for its dedication to veterans. On May 30th, the center will host a special public performance by The Resilient. Composed primarily of severely wounded combat veterans, the band will perform to support a Soldier's Journey Home, a nonprofit currently building a barrier-free home for a local veteran named Nathan and his wife Veronica. We are dedicated to giving back to those who have sacrificed so much for our country, said Carolyn Panzica, Executive Director of the West Falls Center for the Arts. Whether through the healing power of free music lessons or by bringing the community together for events like the Resilient Concert, our work with veterans remains a profound honor and a core part of our mission. Western New York has been the most welcoming and supportive community we've ever worked with, said Brian Fitzpatrick, president of A Soldier's Journey Home. The generosity and hospitality of the people here have been truly inspiring, making it a privilege to build a home for a deserving veteran in West Falls. The public can support these ongoing efforts by purchasing concert tickets or making direct donations. Every contribution ensures these specialized programs continue to serve those who have served the nation. For tickets, donations, and additional information, visit www.westfallsartcenter.org. West Falls Center for the Arts is a nonprofit arts and cultural destination dedicated to enriching lives by collaborating, inspiring, and educating through music. The center offers world-class musical entertainment serving rural, urban, and underserved communities. Programs include the Musical Memories Cafe for those living with Alzheimer's and dementia, free music lessons for military veterans and first responders, and the Kids Band program for young musicians. A Soldier's Journey Home, ASJH, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to building one home each year for a severely wounded veteran. The organization is completely volunteer-driven, ensuring donations go directly to the recipients. Since its inception, ASJH has completed builds across the United States, bringing together firefighters, veterans, and community members to change lives. Mightier Than the Sword, Notes on Writing by John Penfold. This article is titled Word Search. I'm trying to find a word, and not just any word. That's easy. Hell, I just typed over a dozen of them. Words are common, ordinary, abundant. A dime a dozen, some might say. For others, words are cheap, but the perfect word for the perfect moment, you can't put a price on that. I am in search of a word, and not just any word. I know what this word means. I know the definition. I know several ways to say what I need to say. I just don't know how to say it. The subject in question can be defined as an individual as part of an organized civil force who seeks to regulate a specific behavior, activity, or practice, especially when it pertains to preventing and detecting crime and enforcing laws. Arguably, the most formal words that fit this definition is police officer, and if I was writing in a professional nonfiction journalistic manner, say for a newspaper, magazine, or academic journal, the term police officer would work just fine. But I'm not looking for a word to be used in a professional nonfiction journalistic manner. I'm looking for a word that will be spoken by a character in an imaginative narration, a made-up story, pure fiction, and in particular, a dirty, sleazy, hard-boiled, sometimes obscene mystery thriller. I'm looking for a word that means police officer, but police officer will not do. Luckily, I have lots of options. Cop, copper, policeman, patrolman, constable, sheriff, lawman, detective, Bobby, investigator, inspector, trooper, the heat, the man, the law, the fuzz, 5-0, po-po, pig, piggy, bacon, oinker, blue coat, jackboat, flatfoot. No shortage of choices, that's for sure, but how do you narrow it down to one? First of all, let's eliminate the derogatory terms, pig, piggy, bacon, oinker. The character in question may not be on the right side of the law, but he does have a smidgen of respect for it. These words will certainly work just fine later on for another character in the story, but not this one, so we'll save them for later. And we can certainly get rid of the old-fashioned and foreign words that are rarely used these days. Jackboot, flatfoot, Bobby, constable. Different time, different genre. Cop is the obvious choice, but too easy, too obvious. Same with policeman and anything with the word the in front of it. The heat, the man, the law. Feels clumsy, cumbersome, and doesn't roll off the tongue. And we don't want to sound too pretentious, so we can eliminate detective, investigator, and inspector. Then there are the words that have a rural feel to them. Sheriff, lawman, patrolman, trooper. Great words for small towns, long stretches of highway, and wide open spaces, but they're no good here, for this story takes place in a city. Now we are left with slang, which makes sense because, after all, isn't that how we talk? Chat, chit-chat, gab, blab, ramble, rant, rap, yap, yak, jaw, vent, spill, schmooze, shoot the breeze, shoot the expletive, chew the fat, pop off, go off, rabble, rouse, and talk trash. I need a word, and it looks like I'm down to just a few choices: fuzz, copper, po-po, and 5-0. These last two are newer words, pop culture words. Po-po comes from Southern California in the 1980s and is often used in hip-hop and rap culture, while 5-0 originated from Hawaii Five-O, the popular 1970s television series. Hawaii is the 50th state. 550, 50, 50, get it? While my character is old enough to have lived through both these eras, he is probably more inclined to know the history of these words than actually to use them. Down to 2. Fuzz is too cute, too fuzzy. Looks like we have a winner. Copper. It's not pretentious or old-fashioned or rural. It's slang, but everyone will know what it means in the right context. It's subtle yet obvious. It might not be proper, but it's not quite derogatory. It feels clean and dirty at the same time. It gives the character saying it a slight air of mystery. With a word like this, we aren't quite sure how he feels about the police. Watch out for that copper. I don't trust that copper. My friend is a copper. I called the coppers. They're on their way. I have my word. The search is over. Though, come to think of it, I'm not sure I'm happy with the word search either. I wonder what else I can use. ... Mightier Than the Sword, Notes on Writing is a column by John Penfold, an Iroquois Central graduate. He is the author of 4 books: The Road and the River, The Last Indians, A Long Walk on the Beach, and Free Season and Other Stories. For information on ordering or to see more of his work, visit John Penfold, and that's John, Jon, Penfold, PENFOLD.com. Karner Development Group appoints Dan Garvey as Director of Hospitality. Karner Development Group, CDG, recently announced the appointment of Dan Garvey as its new Director of Hospitality. A lifelong East Aurora resident, Garvey has spent nearly 30 years in the area's small business hospitality landscape. The historic Roycroft Inn, where he served in multiple leadership roles, including Director of Food and Beverage, Assistant General Manager, Innkeeper, and General Manager. His work is centered on preserving local character, elevating service standards, and strengthening the connection between hospitality businesses and the communities we serve. Garvey is widely recognized for his commitment to community-driven initiatives, including programs that support local families and reinforce East Aurora's culture of neighbor-to-neighbor care, a representative from CDG said in a statement. His leadership values are authenticity, service, and a deep respect for its historic and cultural identity. Garvey's roots in East Aurora and his decades of experience in small business hospitality make him uniquely suited to help guide the CDG. As the company continues to invest in projects that contribute to the well-being of the village and town, it was essential to bring someone on who understands hospitality at the highest level in East Aurora itself. In his new role, Garvey will oversee hospitality operations across CDG's growing portfolio. His focus will include food and beverage programming, event operations, and overall guest experience. Karner Development Group looks forward to the leadership, insight, and community-centered perspective Garvey brings as the company continues its mission of thoughtful development and historic preservation, the statement said. The next feature is Chew on This by Holly R. Layer, and the title of this article is Eating Your Spring Veggies. Last month I wrote about the earliest spring produce items, including ramps, turnip greens, and pea shoots. I'm planning to give countertop pea shoots a try soon. My favorite springtime vegetable is asparagus, and it's been on the menu a few times already. I served it alongside ham and deviled eggs for Easter, included it in a vegetable lasagna, and I have another bunch sitting in my fridge for later this week. In western New York, the growing season for asparagus is relatively short and can range from late April to mid-June, with most growth in May. When you bring a bunch or two home, trim off the bottom inch of the stalks, then place in water and store in the fridge for up to about a week. Asparagus is low in calories, high in vitamins A, C, and K, and is a good source of fiber. It can be eaten raw or cooked and is an excellent option for the grill. Perhaps the easiest way to prepare asparagus is to drizzle with olive oil, sprinkle with salt and pepper, then roast for 15 to 20 minutes in a 400-degree oven. It makes a simple, healthy side dish full of flavor, crunch, and color. Rhubarb is another early spring vegetable that shouldn't be forgotten. My husband really likes strawberry rhubarb desserts, which is probably why it's on my radar. If you're unfamiliar, let this be your quick primer. Rhubarb stalks resemble celery with broad leaves at the top and are red, pink, and pale green in color. While technically a fruit, rhubarb is quite sour and is often cooked with sugar as part of jams and desserts. It's even earned the nickname the pie plant because of its prevalence in the crusty treat. Historically, rhubarb played a main role in ancient Chinese medicine. Nutritionally, rhubarb is high in vitamin K and is a good source of fiber. Most recipes for rhubarb are the sweet variety, and a quick internet search will yield no shortage of crisps, crumbles, pies, and jams. However, rhubarb can be eaten raw and unsweetened. Try slicing it thinly and adding it to a spring salad with segmented oranges and a citrus vinaigrette. Lastly, spring greens that begin to appear in the early spring include spinach, kale, and lettuce. Most greens are high in vitamins A, C, and K, as well as folate and antioxidants. For anyone taking blood thinning medication, be aware that the intake of greens high in vitamin K, like kale, spinach, and collard greens, should be consistent from day to day. Greens make an excellent base for salad, but also cooked as a side dish or added to soups. One of my favorite ways to incorporate greens is to add them to my weekly egg bake. The East Aurora Farmers Market, located in the parking lot next to the Classic Rink, will open Saturday, May 2nd. The Farmers Market is open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wednesdays and Saturdays through late November. Holly Layer is a registered dietitian and a freelance writer. She lives in the village with her husband Andrew, an East Aurora native, and their daughter Mael. Mael? She blogs at www.thehealthypineapple.com. Questions can be emailed to Holly at eanews@eastaurora.newyork.com. Free health screenings at ROC. The Independent Health Foundation will welcome families and neighbors to the Rural Outreach Center, ROC, on Olean Road from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on Saturday, May 9th for free health screenings. Attendees will receive a hygiene bag stocked with essential items including toilet paper, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, and deodorant. They will also receive a Healthy Options recipe bag containing ingredients to make a delicious vegetable stir-fry. In addition to health screenings and resources, there will be activities for children at each event. The ROC is located at 730 Olean Road in East Aurora. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the East Aurora Advertiser on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Erie County releases survey to public for input. Erie County is inviting residents from across its cities, towns, and villages to share their perspectives on county services, priorities, and future investments through the Envision Erie survey unveiled by Erie County Executive Mark C. Poloncarz. The new initiative, originally announced by Poloncarz in his 2025 State of the County address, reflects the county's commitment to listening to and engaging with residents and ensuring that county government remains responsive, transparent, and aligned with community needs. Envision Erie is a comprehensive community engagement initiative aimed at identifying the priorities, challenges, and opportunities facing Erie County residents. The survey asks residents about a wide range of topics, including housing, public safety, economic development, public health, infrastructure, workforce development, and participation in local government. The goal of Envision Erie is to collect feedback from residents across Erie County's communities and use that input to help guide county policy, programs, and investments. All Erie County residents are encouraged to participate in the survey. The survey will be open for 90 days and will be available online. Take the survey online at www.erie.gov/envisionerie. Paper surveys will be made available at community centers, senior centers, and libraries across Erie County. At the survey's conclusion, Erie County will analyze survey responses and community input throughout the summer, identify key trends and priorities expressed by residents, and develop and release a public-facing action plan in fall of 2026 outlining how Erie County will respond to identified community needs and priorities. Artemis II astronauts safe during historic lunar mission. Moog Incorporated, a worldwide designer, manufacturer, and systems integrator of high-performance precision motion and fluid controls and control systems, highlights the role its technologies played in supporting astronaut safety during NASA's Artemis II mission. Moog's propulsion, life support, and communications hardware aboard the Orion spacecraft performed to sustain crew health, safety, and connectivity throughout the mission. Moog components regulated the propulsion system as well as airflow, pressure, and cabin conditions inside Orion, ensuring a stable, breathable environment from launch through splashdown. These innovative propulsion, environmental control, and life support valves were engineered to operate reliably in deep space, including intense heat, cold, vibration, and radiation. The hardware's performance assisted with crew survival. During Artemis II, the astronauts traveled more than 252,000 miles from Earth, exceeding the previous human spaceflight distance record set during the Apollo era. In addition, Moog also supplied hardware for the spacecraft's communication system, enabling the transmission of voice data, commands, and telemetry between the crew and mission control across vast distances, ensuring continuous connectivity throughout the landmark mission. Communications is the crew's lifeline, said Chris Hodge, Moog Space Avionics General Manager. We're proud of our technology and the team's dedication to keep astronauts connected every step of the way. This mission advances efforts to return humans to the lunar surface as part of NASA's upcoming Artemis launches. Moog has been providing technologies for NASA's crewed missions since the beginning of human spaceflight. Aurora Historical Society Speaker Series continues on April 23rd. The Aurora Historical Society, AHS, continues its speaker series on Thursday, April 23rd with Jeff Schober, author of Growing Up Gronk and Bike Path Rapist. Schober is a retired teacher who has a blog at buffalotales.net. Schober will explore the topic When Fake News is True, discussing how President Grover Cleveland covered up his second term and maneuvered to discredit the journalists who reported the truth. This program will take place at the Aurora Senior Citizen Center on King Street in East Aurora. The doors open at 6:30 and the program begins at 7. For more information about membership to the Aurora Historical Society, visit aurorahistoricalsociety.com. An article from the Memories section. 100 years ago, April 16th, 1926. One of the finest things Elbert Hubbard wrote was the article on the Titanic. Elbert Hubbard keenly felt the loss of many of his friends who were aboard the vessel. He was away on a Western lecture tour when the news reached him. He wrote his article on scraps of paper, writing out of his heart a vivid narrative that was a wondrous tribute. The piece of writing will be broadcast by the Reverend R.C. Stoll from the studio of WMAK on Thursday at 8 p.m. There will be an open meeting on Thursday to organize the Garden Club of East Aurora. It is hoped that all the garden makers of the village will attend this meeting and lend their support and enthusiasm to an organization which should encourage better gardens for East Aurora. Anyone interested in growing flowers and vegetables, as well as improving their home grounds, is invited to help organize the Garden Club. The management of the Aurora Theater has secured for local theater an unusual attraction in the Climax, now running at the Buffalo Playhouse. It will be presented here next Monday evening. The Climax is an outstanding success of the season since the play concerns everyday human folk with everyday problems and emotion. The play is unusually interesting, with the story centering around a musical theme. View from Right Field, a column by Rick Oler. The title of this article is On Broadway. Going to the big city still stirs in me a sense of adventure, like a road trip. I know, it's not that far to Buffalo from Right Field World Headquarters on the western fringe of the village. Buffalo's not that big a city. Compared to a full-scale metropolis like Boston or New York, Buffalo, the hub around which Western New York revolves, is tiny. And a trip into Buffalo from the 14052 offers not even close to the challenges that a trip into Boston from, say, Lexington, or into Manhattan from Chappaqua poses. Still, an excursion to our big city means leaving one entity and entering another with its own ethos. R.I.P. Snake. As I mentioned in my latest Substack offering, Buffalo Quartet, trips to the big city happen for several reasons: pro sports, cultural events, political rallies, but April 3rd this year presented another compelling reason: the Broadway market. For us suburbanites, the Broadway market is a must during the run-up to Easter. It's where we hope to glimpse the quintessence of Buffalo and its blue-collar heyday, a time we recall with a kind of reverence, misplaced perhaps, but alive in our mind, when steel, grain, milling, shipping, railroads, heavy manufacturing reigned. We've read in books like Verlin Klinkenborg's wonderful Elegy for a Lost Era, The Last Fine Time, about an East Side once proud with tradition, steeped in faith, and teeming with energy. When we make our pilgrimage to the Broadway market each year at Easter, we hope there is enough left of that Buffalo for us to immerse ourselves in, if only for a few hours. Inside the spacious building, shoppers like bees at a honey festival buzz throughout the aisles. The color of the day of the season is red. On St. Patrick's Day in Buffalo, everyone wears green and claims to be Irish. On Good Friday, everyone wears red and is Polish. A busker coaxes polkas from his fiddle near the front, setting the tone. Vendors populate 2 floors, hawking traditional Polish fare like baked goods, punchki, krushiki, chalka, specialties like butter lambs, along with crafts, gifts, and clothing. The food is not all Polish. We see stalls with Bangladeshi, halal, Greek, India dishes, emblematic of the diversity of the city's population. Shoppers looking for kielbasa and Eastern hams and the like from meat vendors, camellia and lupus, form a queue that winds through the painted Easter egg stands, past the produce, and almost to the fresh horseradish stand, where the pungent aroma makes your eyes water and clears your sinuses. There are treats and meats and desserts galore. If you're counting calories, you've stumbled into the wrong place. We have entered a different world until, that is, we see Jets Bagels, the people from East Aurora we buy from at the farmer's market on Riley Street. And over there, well, next thing you know, we have purchased a bag full of Babchia's Pierogies, the same company from an Elm Street in East Aurora, except parking at the Broadway market proved easier than on Elm. Nice folks. As we head toward the exit, we happen upon a table of samples from none other than East Aurora Deb Dakert from Deb's Delights, maker of homemade canned goods including pickles, jams, jellies, salsas, and sauces that you see in stores and farmers markets throughout the area. We buy a jar of pickled asparagus after sampling a spear, only to have Deb herself recognize us and throw a little something extra into our bag for making the trip. Wherever you go, it seems, there you are. Outside, after enjoying an hour or so, we are reminded of decades of politicians and planners and potential investors' promises to revitalize the Broadway Fillmore area of the city, an area where revitalization seems to begin and then run out of steam. Looking east down Broadway, a wide boulevard that once must have bustled with commercial traffic, empty lots, shuttered businesses, abandoned buildings, and closed churches stretch to Bailey Avenue and the neighborhood known as Lovejoy. We decide to take a slow roll home, William Street out toward Lancaster rather than the 190, just to see what's happening. The post-industrial corridor has a case of the post-winter blues, with trash apparent and less than prosperous look about it, albeit with a few stretches of newer homes, a hopeful example of urban renewal. We know the city, our city, has suffered since the coming of the St. Lawrence Seaway and the interstate highway system in the late 1950s. Those developments, along with mismanagement and shifting demographic realities, dealt us a blow that halved the population before the end of the 20th century. Positive strides are definitely evident in certain neighborhoods in the city if you know where to look. Buffalo shines. But down here, to us outsiders, promises seem to outnumber actions. Then, as we dodge the potholes, Kateri notices a fellow on top of a forlorn building grappling with the Ukrainian flag. We have to stop. Kateri's daughter-in-law, Katya, is Ukrainian. Although Katya and Kateri's son and their children escaped Kyiv when the invasion began and now live in Dublin, Ireland, Katya has family there, family who have experienced the terror of constant Russian bombing. Slavic Bazaar Euro Delicatessen announces the sign beside the door. A humble establishment, but one packed with ethnic Eastern European food, Euro Deli has given the Slavic immigrant community a source for those foods they left behind in Ukraine, Poland, Russia, and all the Slavic nations for 20 years. Kateri takes photos to send to Katya. As the scenery changes from urban to suburban, to semi-rural, I realize that a city as old and as complex, as battered yet resilient as Buffalo will continue to change. But it's good to know you can still get smoked kielbasa, fresh horseradish, butter lambs, and an authentic krushiki when you want one. Visit Rick Ohler's new Substack offering Talk of the Townie at Rick Ohler, so it's RICKOHLER 1.substack.com. Free and paid subscriptions are available. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the April 16th issue of the East Aurora Advertiser. We read from the East Aurora Advertiser every Saturday at 10 a.m. Your reader has been Patrice, and it's been my pleasure to read for you. Thank you so much for listening.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of the Niagara Gazette. At noon, we have the Dunkirk Observer. And at 1 o'clock, we have some of our Northtown Bees, including Amherst, Clarence, Cheektowaga, Lancaster, and Depew. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which